I was raised in Oakland into a dysfunctional family.
My family was broken. It was a violent place. It was an unsafe place. It was a very turbulent place. So my childhood was an interesting dichotomy.
So my parents divorced when I was in middle school.
You know, it's kind of like I can look back at it now and kind of see that that's where tension was starting to build.
It brought into my life a lot of insecurities that came from my father leaving my mother when I was born. He left us with absolutely nothing. He left my mom with a broken heart, some bruised bones, and a bastard son.
But after that, really struggled with my security. Was I worth, being loved? Was I worth, basically, was I worth being alive? Actually, was a huge thing. And I thought of myself as more of a burden than anything.
That is when I started becoming really obsessed with weight.
I went through a lot of self-image issues. I was that seemingly short, pudgy middle school kid. I was fat, to be honest. I got bullied a lot, made fun of a lot.
I was abused a lot in my childhood, and so I struggled just with questioning, people's goodness, struggle with addictions, struggle with self-esteem. I mean, you name it.
7th grade, I was friends with a really popular group of girls, and we weren't very nice. We were very mean girls, and I started falling into different sin habits that I didn't even really know were bad to do.
I wanted to be that cool kid.
I had been drinking and doing a lot of drugs for my whole freshman year, and started getting into cutting my sophomore year, and a little bit in my freshman year as well.
Things happened in that time that I regret. Like, I did a lot of stupid things that I wish I could take back, and but I can't,
And it's hard to look back on, because things weren't really going right at home. I didn't really know who I was, and it was just sad because I had this ideal of what I wanted, and then this reality that didn't match up even in the slightest.
Yeah, I broke a lot of people in that time. So through that, I ended up growing a deep hatred for who I had become.
7th grade summer, I was extremely depressed, extremely sad. I had no friends when I had gone from having all of the friends to none.
So all these things just kind of kept piling up, and eventually it came to the point where I didn't know what was left for me.
I started cutting. I would do very weird things. I would take hammers, and try to break stuff just so it was ridiculous and it was crazy, and it's not what I was made for.
I thought that I didn't deserve to live. I didn't deserve to be loved or valued by my parents, by my siblings, by my friends, by anybody, because I was just a huge screw up. I was the black sheep of the family.
I came to a point where I was suicidal. One night I tried to hang myself. Just thought it would get rid of the pain.
I took probably about half a bottle of Benadryl, and so I took about half a bottle, and I just kept taking more and more, because the more that I took, the more I was convinced that this is what I wanted.
I grabbed a razor, like I had done so many mornings or so many days, before, and I ran that through my arms as deep as I could go, and as many times as I could before I thought I, inflicted enough damage to die.
It took something a lot stronger than death to break me from the chains that I was entangled in. Jesus was something that was constant in my life, but it wasn't always something I took seriously until the end of freshman year after I came out of that deep depression.
All throughout high school, you know, I'd give my brother the finger and I would just tell him to, you know, basically screw off. I didn't want to hear about Jesus, I didn't want to hear about God, I didn't want to hear about Christianity.
You know, at first, I had heard before the title Jesus Christ from my mom, but it wasn't paired with any action or fruit, and she was really abusive, and so it was all bad.
You know, that whole argument of if there's such a loving God, then why is there pain? Why did my family, you know, break up? Why did our parents get divorced?
I knew there was a God, and I would pray to him, you know, before bed, before dinner, but it wasn't really a big part of my life, and I didn't really know that much about it.
One of the places we moved to, I had a neighbor who went to church and stuff. I was probably about 3 or 4 years old, and they had a little girl who was my age, and they brought me to church one day.
I came to church in middle school with my sister. I saw just a community of people that were genuine and were loving and were authentic in what they said and believed, and it was just world-changing for me. It was earth-shattering.
He was a huge light for me and everything that I was going through.
And I was learning stuff, you know, learning a lot of knowledge about God, but I was also living this life of deception and shame that was making me miserable.
I knew that I was messed up enough to know that, you know, when I didn't get what I want, I would yell or scream at my mommy, or would hit my sisters if they stole a toy from me. I knew I was a troubled kid. I knew I had issues.
It was just more myself feeling unfulfilled and unsatisfied with anything that this life had to offer, and trying to turn to worldly things for that.
I came to understand that I needed someone to save me from that, and Jesus was that, and for a long time that's all he was to me.
My life was a mess. I was still getting kicked out all the time. I mean, I was stealing, I was drinking, you know, I was sneaking out at night all the time to try to reach this high that could not exist.
A year after high school, I was sitting in a room, just completely strung out, and drunk, or actually coming down from being drunk and coming down from being really high, sitting down on a couch in a pitch black room thinking to myself, there's gotta be more to life than this.
It was just bad. I wanted to die. I was suicidal throughout, and I knew I would never do anything about it, but it was bad.
That's where I think I found Christ, in that time of he was the only thing that was giving me joy, or the only thing that could give me joy.
Then I just reached a point where it was too much. I was tired of it. I didn't have anywhere else to turn, anything else to do, anything else to try, really. I had done it all.
Culture will tell you that you want to be about yourself and pleasing yourself, but that is such an empty life, and it left me empty and broken and depressed. But Christ redeems that. Christ came into my life, showed me that I was a sinner and was destined for death, and he sat on a cross for me. He was the God that created me and breathed life into me, and while he was being beaten and whipped and spat on, he was willing those guys to continue living while they put him up on the cross for my sake.
He's filled me with this crazy amount of joy that I didn't even know existed.
So the end of that summer, I went on a trip called Houseboats, and I can honestly say that I felt like it was time for my life to change, my heart to change, everything to change. You know, I felt like I finally heard the truth, and it was the truth.
Being a Christian, it's not easy. I'll give you that. I'm gonna be real with you. It's not easy at all, but you know, it's exciting. It's exhilarating.
It's not boring. It's an adventure, and that's something that I just never thought I could do.
I'm confident that I'm valued by him, and confident that I'm loved by him, because what was accomplished for me on the cross, and that's what defines me, is what happened and what was accomplished for me on the cross of Christ.
There's not one time where it's where it's failed me, it's been perfect in my life.
I started reading my Bible. I started actually investing in church, investing in the people around me, and my heart was transformed. I can honestly say that I'm not the person that I was.
You know, that's how strong God is. He can take any junk in your life and turn it into something beautiful. And really, that's what it's been for me. He has taken all my junk and he's turned it into a masterpiece.
I'm not, who I used to be, and through Jesus Christ, I have a life now. I have a reason for living.
My dad, he adopted me, and right now, we're going through a cancer battle with him. He's strong, but he's flawed. He's done a lot of flawed things too, just like me. Just like me, he needs a savior, and I love him so much. I don't want his soul to be lost.